So Sanjana Mataji is there, and she will let me know if anybody got any question. Okay, otherwise I will move on. Now, so chapter 7 is what we're going to cover. Now, before I move into chapter 7, as Prabhuji gave me 10 to 15 minutes to wrap up, and hopefully we will get the question and answers done within that as well. I hope you have done it. If no, I will briefly say in Bhagavad Gita we go 18 chapters. If we divide 18 into 3, we have 3 different sections, chapter 1 to chapter 6, which is on Karma Yoga mainly. Then we have right at the end, chapter 13 to 18, which is mainly on Jnana. So chapter 7 to chapter 12 is on bhakti, is on devotion. So this is, so if you think about the sandwich, in the sandwich you have a bread on the top, bread at another slice at the bottom. Right in the middle is what's the most important part. And this is what devotional service is. This is from where chapter 7 to chapter 12 goes on. So chapter 7 falls in the category of devotional service. Devotional service of whose? Absolute. Who's absolute? Krishna. So we are going to get the knowledge of absolute in chapter 7. So let's start on that. We have done that. Well, the few main verses we are going to do in the summary, and they are what we say, see. I hope everybody could see my screen. Yeah, my screen. See that? Now 7.1, the very first verse, it says, now again, the way we summarize that, it says, all from ear to hear. So not only just the hearing, but we need to do the effective listening. So we are listening. When we listen, and hopefully you know, when Prahlad Maharaj in Bhagavatam says that there are 7 different forms of devotion, devotional service. The very first one is hearing, right? We hear. We should always keep ourselves engaged in the hearing. Now, that's where chapter 7 starts from. Then 7 to 12. Oh, then Krishna says, you need to know me. And that's why Krishna is telling a lot about him. The knowledge of absolute is the knowledge of Krishna, what we're going to learn in this chapter. 7.14, the great escape. How could we come out of material mode of nature, right? There are 3 material mode of natures, and we will briefly touch base on them. And hopefully in chapter 3, chapter 4, initially we have already covered it. Then 7.19, and briefly mentioned in 7.3 as well, the platinum card, what Krishna gives us. And that seems to be the solution of all the problem. But right at the end, again, Krishna will remind us the root of the water. Then again, what different types of devotees, whom they pray. And what Krishna says, if you pray to me, you pray to all the demigods, you pray to everyone. And that's what we're going to cover in this chapter. Now, moving on. Now there are few what we're going to see. So chapter 7 overview, right? Well, I have just touched base on. Now just to read, if you can see what we see on this slide, but if I just read the text in yellow, the glory of knowledge about Krishna, right? Moving on the right, knowledge of Lord Krishna's energy. And it's so important to understand that how everything is connected to Krishna. So whenever we see from the morning till the end of the day, anything and everything we see, we will understand that everything is Krishna's energy, right? And then we could just get connected to Krishna so easily. Then moving down, it says surrendering on to Krishna. Once we know that everything is Krishna's energy, how do we surrender to Krishna, right? And then, as we said, we will see the different types of so-called devotees. And then right at the end, what Krishna says, that how could you come out of this material mode of nature? And what's the greatest solution possible, which is to surrender to Krishna. Right, hearing about Krishna. And this is what Krishna says. So I'm going to read this. Left bottom, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said. So it says, Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Now hear, O son of Partha, How? By practicing yoga in full consciousness of me with mind attached to me. You can know me in full, free from doubt. So if everyone is listening effectively in this session, then you will able to realize Krishna. You will able to connect to Krishna. And that's what Krishna is saying to. Who is Arjun? Each one of us is a seeker. Each one of us is a devotee. Each one of us is what whom Krishna is speaking to, right? So be ready in that. And then what Krishna says, how much do we need to know about Krishna? What's the end of it? Krishna says, I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So what Krishna said in 7.1, the very first verse, that hear from me, listen. And then the second verse Krishna is saying, I'm going to tell you there's nothing more left to know after that. So that's the only thing we need to know. A lot of time we think, well, we just read Bhagavad Gita, but we need to go to school, we need to learn a lot there. Yes, we do. But if we understand this, then we will understand that all that is very simplified form of Krishna consciousness only. How the mundane world works in Krishna consciousness, we will know that. We will know very, very, very briefly. Now moving on to it, 7.3, rarity. Krishna says this knowledge not available to everyone. And though for those whose this knowledge is available, not everybody understand. Now if you see on the right hand side, and that's why you might hear this word again and again, what says causeless mercy. What is causeless mercy? It's like you will do the exam. So my son prepared for 11 plus. So he could not say at the end of the day that I've prepared for the 11 plus. I want my entrance is done. I need the admission in grammar school. No, he can write as much nicely he could. But after that, it's Krishna's mercy whether Krishna will pick it or not. If you see the picture, it says Krishna is picking the devotees, right? So out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And for those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So all of us here, Sunday afternoon, who decided to hear about Krishna, we are so unique. And Krishna is so pleased. Krishna is so pleased from each one of you that you have come here to hear about Krishna, right? So always, always remember that. Krishna is going to shower the mercy. And then, now we have two different types of bodies, gross and subtle, right? Gross body is made up of a lot of things. Usually we always say air, ether. Now it says earth, water, fire, and they are going forward, there are 24 other elements as well. But then we have subtle body. What's that made up of? Mind, intelligence, false ego. So when someone dies, when someone leaves the body, or the soul leaves the body, the subtle bodies stay, but the gross body stays, but the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false egos take the form and shape of the next life. However, if right at the end, if we think about Krishna, then that subtle body will get, well, not going into detail, but you will get a spiritual body and go back to Godhead. Right? But Krishna says here, earth, water, fire, air, ether. So gross body, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Subtle body. So gross body plus subtle body, altogether these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So Krishna is explaining about the material energies. Now, whenever we see these material energy, we need to understand what Krishna is saying. These are my energy. So whenever you see air, whenever you see fire, whenever you drink water, and Krishna will say, later, I am the taste in water. So most of the people in the morning, very first thing they do, they drink the water. And then when we drink the water, we say, Hare Krishna. The taste we get, that's Krishna, right? So always remember that. And then what Krishna says in the next one, we belong to Krishna. So we are one of those energies of Krishna. Everything else, including us, is Krishna's energy. Everything belongs to Krishna. We belong to Krishna as well. Besides these, O mighty Arjun, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities, which is us, Jiva, who are exploiting the resources of this material, inferior energy. So we have the words we say para and apara. So we have them, what we saw in the last slide, last verse, material. They were the material. And then we are here, living entities. We are a bit superior than material, and we are the ones who are exploiting these. And it's a very, very nice verse, 7:4. Moving on, now Krishna is explaining about himself. Krishna is our maintainer. Not only that, all these energies come from Krishna. Krishna is the one who is maintaining them, right? So whatever we get, we might think, oh, we get it because our parents they have given us. But from where our parents got it? Our parents got it from Krishna as well. Krishna has given everything. Krishna is the one who sanctioned all of those things, right? So Krishna says in O conqueror of wealth, there is nothing true superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So we wear the mala, tulsi mala. We have many beads in it, but then we have the thread. If the thread is not there, these pearls will not be together, right? These beads won't be together. And that's what Krishna is saying. Krishna is the essence. Now, whether we know it or not, whether we are aware of or not, whether we realize it or not, but Krishna is the maintainer. Krishna is the sustainer. Without Krishna, nothing will stay. Right? And then what Krishna says, this divine energy of mine consists of three modes of material nature. Right? So remember this, material mode of nature, MMN, mode of material nature or material mode of nature, where three, goodness, passion and ignorance, is difficult to overcome. And that's so true. That's so true. It's very difficult to overcome. But who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And there are many examples and many stories which could be discussed here to understand it. But of course, at the moment, we don't have enough time because we are just summarizing it. But maybe later we will go into detail going for it. But there are so many nice stories about it. But what Krishna says, so who surrenders me will overcome. But what will happen to those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheist nature of demons, do not surrender. So Krishna explains it very vividly, very clearly. These four kind of people, they will not. Those who are foolish, those who are lowest among mankind, those whose knowledge is, they are bewildered. Why? Because they haven't surrendered to Krishna. It's so easy. We don't have to do a lot of things. We just need to surrender it to Krishna. First of all, we need to understand what does that mean, and then we need to surrender it to Krishna. We don't want to be in these four categories, right? And which category we need to? And that's where Krishna says, the pious, O best among Bharatas, four kind of pious men begin to render devotional service. So we need to render. We need to start doing devotional service. And who are the ones? The distress, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. These could be the initial stages why somebody will get into Krishna consciousness. But later on, we will just become pure devotees. And then we will not look for these. We will just do the devotional service because that's what we love to do it. 9 forms of devotional service, and right at the end we have prema, just because we love doing it. Like mothers, why mothers or fathers, they do things for the kids? Because they love doing it. So that's what Krishna is saying here, surrender. Now the only thing we need to do to overcome the material mode of nature, we need to surrender it to Krishna. And what Krishna says, bahuna janmane ante, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me. So who is in knowledge? Who surrenders unto Krishna, not who has got the PhDs and all. No, it's not bad to get the PhDs, but after getting PhDs, we don't say thank you to Krishna. We don't express gratitude. We don't surrender to Krishna. We don't use our knowledge in devotional service. Then that knowledge is not going to be helpful. So the one who surrenders to Krishna, knowing me to be the cause of all the causes. When we know everything is Krishna's energy, we know Krishna is the maintainer, Krishna is the sustainer, then that's the one who is going to leave the body and go back to Krishna. And all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. But it's very rare. Devotees are very, very, very rare. So again, I would like to congratulate each one of you who are here on Sunday afternoon to become Krishna's devotees, right? To hear about Krishna. Hari Om. Now what Krishna says here. So, those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender on to demigods and follow the particular rules and regulation of worship according to their own nature. So a lot of time what happens, the example of tree is given. And I was doing gardening this morning, right? So if we need to water the plant, where do we water the plant? Do we water the leaves? Do we water the flower? Do we water the branches? No, we need to water the root of the plant, and rest of the bits, they get the water from the roots. And here the root is Krishna, because we have already discussed the source is Krishna, right? If we take care of Krishna, if we surrender to Krishna, then all the demigods, they're always taken care of it, right? And we have seen a lot of examples in Bhagavatam where, for example, Indra, right, in the Leela of where Giriraj Dham, Govardhan Leela, where Krishna on a pinky finger for so long Krishna was picking, and Indra could not do anything to the devotees. Why? Because they all would surrender to Krishna. So that's the only thing we need to do. We just need to surrender to Krishna.
Let's try.
And the temporary results, men of small intelligence worship demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme God. And if you think about it, that's right. Think you are in a school, right? If you will please your maths teacher, mathematics teacher will give you 100% in your maths. And maybe if you will please your science or English teacher, they have only control on their own subjects. But what if you will please the principal? Principal can take care of maths, English, science, all the teachers. And that's what Krishna is. Krishna is the source. Krishna is the one who gives the knowledge and the power to everyone, all the demigods, right? So rather than getting into the demigods' prayers, we need to worship Krishna's prayer, right? Or when we worship demigods, we basically pay obeisances because they are pure devotees. They could be considered as pure devotees, senior devotees of Krishna. So we always need to have respect for all the demigods, right? Now, this is where we are, right at the end. So these are the last verses of chapter 7. What Krishna says, unintelligent men who do not me perfectly think that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have assumed this personality. Well, due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So a lot of people, they think that Supreme Absolute is just energy, right? But think about the candle. If you can see the light of the candle, if you can feel the heat of the candle, there got to be a candle. And that's why, if we know everything belongs to Krishna, if we know everything is Krishna's energy, then Krishna got to be there as a person, and Krishna is. Like in Brahma Samhita it says, Adi Purusha. Krishna is the supreme, right? Krishna is the first primary, right? And I'm conscious of the time here. Refuge in devotional service. So saying again, the only thing devotee needs to do is to surrender to Krishna doing the devotional service. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman. because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. How? Just by surrendering to Krishna, right? It's like if you respect your parents, if you just take care of your parents, if you just listen to your parents, you don't even need to ask for things. Your parents will be just pleased, happy, and they will just give those things to you. You don't have to. You don't have to. Right? So, like what we say here, these are the main things what we discuss here. What Krishna says, then hear from. Initially, very first thing Krishna is saying, hear from me, I'm going to tell you. Right? Then Krishna explained about himself. Krishna says, I am beyond these material mode of nature. And who is intelligent, who will surrender to me, will overcome material mode of nature. But those who are unintelligent, they will not able to. They will be there in material mode of nature. We don't want to be in material mode of nature. We don't want to be anxious. We don't want to be in stress. We don't want to fight. We don't want to shout. We just want to surrender to Krishna. We want to do the devotional service to Vaishnavas, to other devotees. And how? Like what Krishna says, we need to water the root, which is Krishna. And if we will please Krishna, we will do the devotional service for Krishna and the devotees of Krishna, then everybody else alongside will get happy, will get pleased, and we will get all the material success we need. What we need to do, we just need to surrender to Krishna. And with that, I will just summarize. There are a few verses which we have covered here, which are supposed to be the main verses, but this is nice. I will just say Hare Krishna. I will open the forum for any questions anyone might have for anything we have discussed.
Brilliant. What a wonderful session. I learned so much from that, actually. Yeah, take it to the floor. Does anyone have any questions? Any of the kids? It's really encouraging to see everyone here, so many young faces. Would you like to ask anything from VP Govinda Das?
Well, if you won't ask the question, I will ask the question. Who knows the three material mode of nature I mentioned? Okay, please go on. I'm reading the name. Okay. Yes, please. Yes.
Ignorance.
Yes.
What of ignorance, goodness, and passion?
Haribol. Thank you so much. I think Riansh could not control the passion and he all three mode of material nature. Great. Very nice. So these kind of questions we could ask, right? Satvika, you got your hands up. No? I like your headset. Very nice.
She's got the latest fashion.
Yes, it is indeed.
And what about Shruti? Shruti, do you have any questions?
Shruti. Oh, yes.
Yeah, hello. Not really. Not today.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Haribol.
Actually, VP Govindji, fantastic. I loved your presentation. You got a fabulous style. And definitely we should work together. I like you because it's very conducive, especially towards the younger, generation. So well done.
My pleasure, Prabhu.
Loved
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I will put myself on mute now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Navi, actually, I think it might be really good to get him on board for some of our youth, our preteen classes, perhaps in the future. Do like some collaborations. I think that would work really well if he's up for it.
Oh, yes. VP Govindji is up for any preaching.
Right. If no one else has any more questions, so we'll
I like it.
we can move on to chapter 8, which I believe Karuna Bandha Devi is going to be summarizing for us. So we will we'll let her take away the stage. I think Karuna and Chitra, Karuna Bandha and
Hare Krishna. Just to introduce you, Karuna and her daughter Chitra, Karuna Bandar Mataji, she is in Mauritius. She's one of our Guru Bens and initiated for many years. And very, very wonderful Kirtaniya teacher. Really, we are absolutely blessed to have her.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Very good. So good to be in your association.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So Chitra will summarize the 8th chapter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Chitra.
Chapter 8 begins with Arjuna asking a series of questions to Krishna. In light of this, Krishna will then explain about karma, devotional service, and yoga principles among various topics. Krishna begins by elaborating on Brahman and self and their connection to karma. He then proceeds to explain how one can attain him at death. Krishna encourages Arjuna to contemplate the answers to his questions as he continues on the topic of how one can attain a spiritual destination at the time of death. At the time of death, one's thoughts will determine how their destination. Therefore, unless one thinks of Krishna regularly, one will not reach the kingdom of God. It is advisable to remember Krishna regularly throughout our day so that we train our minds to remember him at the time of death.
Good.
Krishna then carries on explaining about the temporary universe created to give life lessons and how the yoga that one practices determines the destination of the death. However, to attain the Lord in the material world, we are unable to practice Bhakti Yoga. We can only rely on Krishna's mercy. A devotee will only wish to serve the Lord, and therefore Krishna is conquered and the devotee liberated. This is the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chitra. That was a really nice and concise summary, which actually just got all the key points in a very sort of concise way. So I really enjoyed that. I really liked how you mentioned how we have to remember Krishna throughout our lives. And what would you say is the best way to do that, is my question.
To remember Krishna in every action we do, whenever we are eating or drinking or anything we do during the day.
Amazing. Does anybody else have any questions? Any of the kids? Would they like to ask Chitra anything about what she said or anything that she mentioned about attaining the Supreme at the time of death? Might seem quite far away for a lot of the young ones. Okay, Nabi, do you have any questions? Or...
No, it was good. Thank you for summarizing it so nicely, Chitra. It's very good.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think Karuna Bandha will now do chapter 9. So looking forward to listening to that. Take it away.
Hare Krishna. So chapter 9 is the Rajvidya Guhya Yoga. This is the most confidential knowledge explained by Lord Krishna. It is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita and is protected right in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. It is just like a pearl hidden in the shell. Krishna says to Arjuna that this is the most confidential knowledge and realization which will relieve him of the miseries of the material existence. The first lesson we derive from this chapter is that we should not be envious. We should develop that deep faith in our heart that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, our protector, guide, and beloved. Those who do not develop this faith cannot attain him. We should pray and associate with the devotees, run the devotional service, and make this faith stronger. Whatever may happen, we should not lose that faith. The second lesson that we learn is that Lord Krishna is completely inconceivable. He said that he is everywhere, but at the same time, he is not in this world. We cannot understand this by our tiny brains. The greatness and capacity of the Lord is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as Achintya Bhedi Bhedi Tattva, the inconceivable oneness and difference at the same time. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that we are one and the same as the Lord in nature. We are the spirit soul, but we are different at the same time, as we are marginal. The Lord is the supreme, complete spiritual. We are covered by Maya in this material world. The Lord is just like fire and we are sparks. So in terms of quantity, we are different. The third lesson that we derive is that there are many persons who misunderstand the Lord. Some thinks that he is just a human being as he descends in the human form. Others believe that God manifests as different demigods whom are worshipable. Others worship the cosmos, personal Brahman. Some claims that all powerful worship lead to the same direction. But Lord Krishna points out that the result of different worship is different results comes. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ancestors will go to the ancestors. The Lord establishes that the exclusive worship of his personal form is the highest form of worship. In chapter 9, verse 34, Lord Krishna advises to always engage the mind in thinking of him, to become his devotee, to offer obeisances unto him, and to worship him. And being completely absorbed in him, one will surely go back to Godhead. This ends the chapter 9, Raj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks so much. Again, just like Chitra, it was just so easy to follow, so concise, all the key points there. I loved it. My question is more of a personal question rather than a philosophy question, because chapter 9 is such a important chapter in terms of falling in love with Krishna, and you've had a lot more experience than I have in terms of Krishna consciousness for sure. Would you say chapter 9, how has it helped you to sort of fall in love with Krishna and his virtues and devoting yourself to him? And how would you encourage me to do the same? I mean, I'm getting there, but definitely for more experience in the future.
Krishna said that we should be completely absorbed in him. And he explains his different qualities, and he differentiates between the worship that we have for different demigods and the worship that we have for him. So if we worship demigods and others, we will go to them, but if we worship Lord Krishna directly, exclusively, so he guarantees that we'll go back to him.
Thanks very much. I'll open the floor up to anybody else. Does anyone else have any questions? Shruti or any of the other kids? Satvika? We'd love to hear from you.
Just one question. What is the sound representation of Omkara? Sorry. What is the sound representation of Omkara? Okay, thanks.
Who was that?
Rianj. We have some wonderful characters. The Om, Shruti, is a very, very interesting word. We've been studying that actually in some detail recently. When devotees get initiated, they get second initiated as well, which means they can worship the deities. So when we do that, we get some other mantras to chant as well, which are secret, Gayatri mantras. And the beginning of this Gayatri mantra starts with this very word, Om. And Krishna describes himself 3 times in the Bhagavad Gita as being represented by the word Om. So Om is actually a very important sound vibration. It's the original sound, which was coming from actually Lord Krishna's flute via Lord Brahma. So it's a very powerful sound vibration. And in fact, the whole creation was done on the basis of just that one word, Om. When Lord Brahma heard it, it gave him the potency to chant, to create. And also our acharyas tell us this Om represents, A represents, is it Radha? I think Radha. U represents Krishna, and M represents us, the living entity. So it's a very powerful sound vibration. Is that okay, Shruti?
Yes, please. Thank you.
And actually, on Sanjana's point, phenomenal question actually, because what you're trying to understand is the greatness of the Lord and the sweetness, and how do we fall in love with him. And I just wanted to share one thing from chapter 9, if that was okay. How Krishna says, he says in text number 29, I envy no one, I am impartial, to everybody. I don't have friends or enemies, but of course, that person who serves me in devotion is in me. I'm a friend to him. He's a friend to me because he's serving me. But even if you're not serving me, Krishna says, I am not impartial against you. This is amazing. But then the next verse, 30th, he says, even if you've done the most craziest thing, right? If you are engaged in bhakti, then I will consider you saintly because you're properly fixed. And then the verse after that, he says, you will soon become righteous and attain everlasting peace. And then he says, my devotee never perishes. Arjun, you tell this to everybody. My devotee never perishes. So that's you fall in love with someone like that very easily.
Thanks very much for sharing. Yeah, very interesting and nice verses to hear. Thanks so much. And I hope that was also valuable to everyone else. I'm sure it was. And I think now we have Pitambar, and he will be summarizing chapter 10 for us. So, Pitambar, if you need to share your screen, go ahead. And we're excited to see what you'll be able to tell us about chapter 10.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Did you say you want to see me?
Definitely want to see you.
I'm a little bit shy, that's why. Anyway, okay, here we go. Can you see me now?
You're one of the most handsome dudes I've ever seen.
Right. Chapter 10 is one of my favorite chapters. The reason why, when I was little, I always used to wonder, what does God look like? It used to really, used to bug me, I used to look at the clouds, I used to look at the rivers, the oceans, the moon, the stars and everything. And I used to wonder, is there a God? I can remember when I was a little kid, I was playing in the back garden and I was watching all these ants and all these different creatures and everything. And I was wondering, is there a God? Is there a God? And I was kind of meditating when I was a little kid, is there something? And a really silly little thought came into my head. It was, well, if there's no God, I can do what I like. I can kill all these creatures and I can I can have a party and all this kind of stuff, right? And a very big smile came over my face because of that power feeling. And then I started looking at the clouds and when I started looking at the clouds and the way the clouds were moving and everything, another voice came in my head and it went, nah, there is a God. Check it out. Look at the way the clouds are moving in the sky and the sun's behind it. You know, how can you say there's no God? And then slowly, as I grew up, I came to Krishna consciousness due to Srila Prabhupada's mercy and also Guru Maharaj's, Krishna Das Swami. Chapter 10 is Vibhuti Yoga, opulence of the Absolute. I really do like this chapter because of what it tells us about Krishna. Krishna is personal in his form. Everybody knows what Krishna looks like, especially in his pastimes when we see. But aside from Krishna as the blue boy of Vrindavan, in the material universe, what does he look like? You know, how can we relate to him? And this is why we are so lucky. We've actually got, we should be laughing our heads open, because in a lot of other religions, they just don't know. Some people have drawn God as an old man. Some say he's Father Christmas. Some say he's, you know, it's crazy. You know, the people just don't know. But in our religion, it's absolutely brilliant. Not only do we have a personal God like Krishna, but Krishna says within the universe, I am everything. I am the elements. You know, he tells us in this chapter where he is, you know, what he does, what he likes, and in some parts and what he wants to do. So I just want to focus on that one point. We are well lucky, you know, because we've got a personal Lord and we can see him within the universe. And we are now going to explore, you know, chapter 10 on how this actually happens. Before I start chapter 10, I just want to have a little chat about Arjun. You know, we've seen Arjun has been discussing with Krishna, you know, oh, hey, you know, I don't know what's going on. There's a battlefield, and he's asking all these philosophy questions, and it can get quite confusing. And by chapter 10, Arjun is not fully, he's kind of convinced, but he doesn't really know what Krishna looks like. So Arjun in chapter 10, he wants to know more about Krishna's form. How can we worship him? As I said, he doesn't actually understand fully what Krishna is, and that he is everywhere. I mean, even I can't understand that now. And then Krishna, towards the end of this chapter, starts explaining and really bringing out all different information about where he is. So we will now start the discussion on chapter 10. It's the very first verse. The Supreme Lord said, my dear friend, mighty armed Arjun, listen to me. Listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit, which will give you great joy. Why is it going to give Arjun great joy? Because he's a devotee. And that's what we want to aspire to. And also Krishna also says something else, which we might not have catched. Krishna says, listen to my supreme word. Whenever we are talking to each other as individuals, we never say to each other, hey, Nabhinandan, listen to my supreme word, you know. And this is really interesting because in the language of Sanskrit and in the language of the Bhagavad Gita, you know, why would you say that? Listen to my supreme word, because you are the supreme. Yes. Right? Then Krishna goes on. I've kind of given little sections to chapter 10, and a very little section is the demigods. You know, does everybody know who the demigods are? They are like Brahma, Shiva, and all the angelic living entities who take control of all the universe and help Krishna as servants run it. What he says is none of these demigods, none of these angels know me. I am their source, and beyond me there is nothing. This is very interesting. It's a bit like a computer. A computer can run, but a computer will never know electricity. You know, when we go into a dark room, we don't know where things is, but as soon as the light goes on, You know, we can see where everything is, and that's all because of electricity. But we might not be able to see electricity, but we can see the effects of it. And this universe is one of the effects of the Supreme Lord. Krishna, very quickly, in the beginning of chapter 10, says, gives a hint, which will be very useful for the rest of the chapter 10. What he says, he who knows me as unborn, the beginningless, as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds, he, undeluded among men, is freed from all sins. And this is absolutely brilliant, because what this has done is kind of set out chapter 10. Basically, Krishna saying, hey, you've already heard from chapters 1 to 9, but hey, what I'm going to tell you now is going to help you more to become sin-free. So it's really interesting, you know, how Krishna words this. Then he starts talking about creation. You know, the whole universe, as we all know, has been created. But then Krishna goes into a bit of depth saying, hey, even intelligence is created by me, knowledge, you know, doubt, delusion, forgiveness, you know, infamy, austerity, charity, they're all created by me. So once again, we were talking about the source, like electricity. Krishna's just given another hint. Hey, by the way, I created all these. Krishna goes on to say, I created the 7 sages, the great sages, and the other 4 great sages, and the Manus, and all creating creatures in this planet descend from them. So Krishna is showing hierarchy, how the universe was created, and how everything was, all the populations were expanded. And then Krishna also says something really beautiful in verse 8, I am the source of all the spiritual worlds and all the material worlds. All we can see before us is a very small part of the universe. People get telescopes out to see, can we see the moon? Can we see Jupiter? Can we see other planets? But this is just one universe. There's millions of them. So that just shows once again, you know, the opulence. And this is why this chapter is so truly named as opulence of the absolute, because I can't get this universe, I can't get this world in my head, never mind this solar system, the universe, the galaxies, and the whole, you know, millions and millions of universes. How could you possibly control all of them? I can't even control what goes on in my own house, or you know, or at work. Yes. And then Krishna goes on to talk about the devotee. The devotees are like people who are chanting, praying, eating prasad, offering foods to the lordships. And what Krishna says about devotees is, he who knows me as unborn. You know, everyone here has got a birthday. You know, that kind of proves that we're all born. But Krishna, he's beyond birth. He says that I'm beginningless. I've got no start. You know, I am the Supreme Lord of all the worlds. And those who know this will be freed from sins. And because they know me, how I am personally and how I am within the material universe, they engage in devotional service. They start chanting the Maha Mantra, they start eating prasadam, they start associating with devotees, they start coming to like these Zoom groups, you know, and they start preaching and they start listening. Later on somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does say, my devotees talk about me and learn from each other, you know, which is, you know, very special, which we should always, and this is what we are actually doing here right now. Krishna also says that the thought of my devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss.
And bliss, always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
Yes, that's it. You've got it. That's the exact verse I wanted to say. Thank you. And then in verse number 10, he says, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, you know, with love, that's very important. I give them the understanding
By which they can come to me.
He knows all 4 verses. He's such a good boy.
But this is brilliant, because what it's showing is Krishna saying, hey, look, just render your devotional service to me, and I will give you the understanding by which you can come to me. He's already kind of said this and many times in the Bhagavad Gita before. So that's all about the devotee. And then verses 10 and 11 are absolutely beautiful, because Krishna is about to explain the opulence of the absolute, the opulence of himself. But he quickly, before he goes on to say that, he makes a promise. And I think that is really nice, because, you know, I would like, you know, if I'm going to start a job, I would like somebody to make a promise. We're going to give you this much money if you do this work. And here Krishna is giving a promise that, you know, if you do this and this, you can come to me. So what is the promise? Krishna says in verse 10 and 11, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give them the understanding by which they come to me. Out of compassion for them, I dwell in their hearts, destroy with the
shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance.
Check it out. Yes. Yes. But the reason I've come to this verse here, verse number 10 and 11, is because it's a promise Krishna is making just before starting off the big explanation about who Krishna is. But just before we get there, Arjun accepts. He's already accepted Krishna, because he said in chapter 2, now you are my spiritual master, now you're my guru, please help me. But here, Krishna is saying it again. It's kind of like the acceptance has got bigger. It's got more mature, you know. And Arjun says, you are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth, etc. I accept you as the truth. Indeed, only you know yourself and your opulences. So that's a kind of Arjun's making, oh, I don't know who you are. I'm never going to know who you are. Only you know who you are, which is very important for us devotees to know, because there are people out there who say, we are God, or we want to become God. We are not like that. We want to be servants of the Lord, and we want to fall in love with the Lord. You know, we want to get engaged in activities and render service. And then Arjun has a question. He says, how can I meditate on you then? How can I contemplate and think about you? And the reason he's asking this is because sometimes when you're a little bit confused about something, you know, like for example, if somebody came and he looked like Krishna and he said to you, you know, I am the Supreme Lord, you would ask, well, prove it, you know, how am I going to worship you, etc. And then the most beautiful explanation starts. I don't want to recite the whole chapter 10 now, because there's quite a lot of verses, but it starts off with Krishna's explanation saying, the blessed Lord said, after Arjun's question, yes, I will tell you about my splendorous manifestations, but only of those ones which are predominant or most important, because we'd be here till 10 o'clock at night if Krishna decided to go through every single, you know, quality, every single aspiration about, you know, what he's all about, the loving devotional service, you know. So I'll just say some of them. Of the Aditis, I am Vishnu. Of the lights, I am the radiant sun. This is absolutely brilliant, because the biggest object in the sky is the sun. So Krishna is basically saying the biggest personality you're going to see is going to be me, Krishna, out of all the personalities. And then Krishna also says, among the stars, I am the moon. At nighttime, all the shining little stars are, you know, twinkling away, and some of them there, but the biggest one is the moon. And of the demigods, I am Indra. Of the senses, I am the mind, because it's the mind which controls the senses, but the mind is also seen as a sense as well. And of the mountains of Meru. And for your children, I just want you to understand, Krishna didn't say Mount Everest, you know, or Mount Ben. You know, he said Meru. Meru is a massive mountain, which is so big. All the mountains in the universe, on whatever planet they're on, are titchy, small compared to them. And then Krishna, another example he gives, he goes, of the oceans, of the waters, I am the ocean. And we all know when we go to the seaside, whether it's Hastings or wherever, when we look at the ocean, we can't see the end of it. And we all know, looking from space, if anybody's seen a video, what the Earth looks like. The ocean is massive, you know. And Krishna goes through many more explanations, like of the weapons. I am the thunderbolt. You know, when the lightning strike and we see that thunderbolt, you know, we feel that, whoa, what was that? You know. And another one which is very beautiful is of law, of the dispensers of law, I am the Lord of death. I really like this one because a lot of people do bad things in life and they go, ha, 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 no one's going to catch us. We can do what we like, you know, it's a free run. But here it's a kind of hint, you know, I am the Lord of death. I am the, you know, the judge, the jury, and the executioner. So, you know, it's a kind of indirect warning. And of the welders of weapon, I am Rama. Of purifiers, I am the wind. We all know how wind can purify things, the way it destroys big, massive buildings, the way it can, you know, dry the earth, you know, etc. And of the rivers, I'm the Ganges, because in our culture, the Ganges is the most sacred river. Won't go into the history of the river Ganges. Of the letters, I am the letter A, because it's the very first letter that appears. We should take note that all the other letters are also Krishna, B, C, D, E, F, and all the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But A is the predominant one, which is right in the beginning, and hence I am the letter A. Of the creators, I am Brahma, the first living entity. I am all devouring death. I mean, there's so many, it just goes on and on. I don't want to say it all because we can all read this later. Furthermore, Arjun, I am the generating seed of all that exists. There is no non-being, there is no being moving or non-moving that, non-moving that can exist without me, which is once again that electricity scenario that I was telling you about, you know, is because of the electricity. I can see you on the computer here, but I can't see the electricity, you know. And finally, just before Krishna finishes off, Krishna saying, know that everything that which is beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring out from a spark of my splendor. I think this is an absolutely beautiful way for Krishna, the way he just wraps it all up very quickly, saying, hey, look, anything that's beautiful in the world. So if you see a lady and she's beautiful, or you see a plant which is beautiful, or an animal, what Krishna is saying, that beauty that you see there is actually me. And I think that's fantastic because it gives you, so whenever you see anything, you can always remember Krishna. Isn't that fantastic? And then the last verse is so sweet. It kind of makes me smile and want to cry at the same time because Krishna says, hey, look, what's the need of all this? You know, all this knowledge, because just from a little spark, right, I can create these entire universes. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's absolutely beautiful because, you know, it just shows, indeed, chapter 10, that Krishna is the opulence of the absolute. I hope you enjoyed that. Hare Krishna. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer.
Hare Krishna, Pagamba. Oh, I really like that. Your enthusiasm is so contagious. Like every time you talk about something, I just get excited about hearing about it as well. So thank you. And I really like the personal touch that you added to at the beginning. That was really nice. So does anyone have any questions? Any of the kids? Or anybody else?
I just had an observation. It's so nice. We've had 4 presentations now. They're all some little different from each other, but they got their own sweet style, and we can learn from each one. I like your enthusiasm, Pitamba, and Karuna and Chitra. Very, very good summaries. Very nicely done. Yeah, and yes, you kept it short and you kept it sweet. And also Govindji, he did a phenomenal.
That was absolutely brilliant. I mean, to be honest, I think the electricity that was coming out of that first lecture,
Yeah,
and I'm so glad I didn't join 5 minutes ago, because that gave me the buzz and that gave me the excitement. And I think this is rippling through. And thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
That's
So
brilliant.
I'm really happy. And I must admit, I've been looking forward to one presentation today. Everybody's fine, but especially Sam. Sam is a really special devotee. He's gone through incredible challenges and he's faced them and he's succeeded in all the mercy of the Lord. And he's such a wonderful soul, you know. We are really blessed to have someone like him present here, because he's just a really amazing devotee. So Sam, it better be good. Only joking. But really, thank you very much, Sam. I know he's a very busy devotee. You know, he's got challenges from everywhere, but yet, you know, he's so fixed, so amazing.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to everyone.
Hare Krishna, we can hear you fine, huh?
Hare Krishna.
Oh, you can hear me nicely. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be talking about the universal form of the Lord. I thank Prabhu, Pitamba Prabhu, for explaining the universal form of the Lord. Sorry, the
opulence of the absolute.
Yeah, absolutely, the opulence of the absolute, which the universal form of the Lord is part of it too. Okay, the universal form of the Lord is actually an illustration by Krishna to Arjuna about his true form, and it shows the past, the present, and the future of everyone. Not everyone knows their past. Even what happened to us yesterday, we don't remember. If I ask any one of you exactly what happened 24 hours ago, they will be struggling to even find out. So it's really, really difficult to know our past. The present, no one knows what tomorrow or now actually holds for us. And in the future, nobody understands what the future is going to be. So it's really, really difficult. It's only Krishna that can give us the past, the present, and the future. And that is what the universal form actually represents. With this particular chapter, the universal form of the Lord, I have an acronym that we can actually use to make it very simplified. The acronym is RUPA, which is Rupa, and incidentally is also a Sanskrit word. Can anyone tell me what Rupa represents in Sanskrit?
Does it mean form? I'm not entirely sure, but I think.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
No, it means form.
Rupa.
It means form. And
indeed.
The thing is,
and
also, it represents Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari, and these two personalities are one. Rupa is Manjari, and Goswami came 500 years, but they are who we are following. So the acronym you've created is very appropriate.
Absolutely. And actually, Rupa is where we got rupees from. It actually means silver. And it also means beautiful as well.
Yes.
So it goes to show the opulence of absolute Krishna. He possesses all wealth and he possesses all beauty. So Rupa is a fitting acronym for this particular chapter of the universal form. And like I've said, it represents the past, the present, and the future of every living entity. So if we take the verses, from verses 1 to 4, it represents the R of the acronym, and that is a request by Arjun. Arjun is requesting from the Lord, now my delusion is dispelled. You've shown me about your opulence. You've shown me everything about living entities, what we are made up of. But like now, can you please show me exactly who you are? I want to see your gigantic form as the universal form of you. Can you please show me if you really are the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Can you please show me your big form? And that represents the R, which is the verses 1 to 4. Verses 5 to 14 represent the U in Rupa, which is the universal form of the Lord. So the Lord actually gave into Arjun and showed his universal form to Arjun. And when Arjun saw the universal form, he could see everything that is going on the battlefield, everything that's gone on in the past, like all the creation of the demigods, everything that's happened is all there in this magnificent form of the Lord. He could see everything. So that is the universal form of the Lord. And then the P represent prayers of Arjun. Arjun wanted to see the universal form of the Lord. The Lord kindly showed him his magnificent form. But it was so overwhelming to Arjun. Arjun couldn't really take seeing that frightful nature of Krishna. He couldn't really bear. He's thinking, my goodness, my dear Lord, I'll be with you. We sleep on the same bed. We go, we hunt, we do everything together. I never realized you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What are you showing me? Please, I'm overwhelmed. And he started praying to Krishna, saying to Krishna, please forgive me everything that I've done when I wasn't sure who you are, because I was a bit complacent. I was only dealing with you as an ordinary friend. And funny enough, when you develop a little bit more in bhakti, you will realize that this is actually what Krishna is looking for. Krishna don't want to represent himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you get to the point when you can relate to Krishna as an ordinary person, as, oh, you can be my child, you can be my friend, you can be my any sort of relationship, that is what Krishna is looking for. And at this point, Arjun is so overwhelmed, he's saying to Krishna, I'm sorry for whatever I've done to you. And he started praying to Krishna. And then the A is the armed form of the Lord. And it represents from verses 46 to 55. Here, the Lord is telling Arjun what he's already done. He's already put to death everyone on the battlefield except the Pandavas. So even in the future, what is going to occur in the future, Krishna knows about it. And it's all been displayed within that universal form. So the universal form, like I said, represents the beginning, the present, and the past of everyone. So if you can understand the universal form of the Lord, it's more easier to understand Bhagavan as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though he's one without a second, Krishna comes to this world as a very, very humble little baby that we worship as our friend, looking up to us as the parent. And this is what Krishna mercy can be for people, ordinary people like us. So insignificant, but somehow Krishna holds us in high esteem. And this is the reason why we say to people, please, please, please worship Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and your life will be successful. Thank you so much. This is the little summary of 11th chapter, which is the universal form of the Lord. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Do you have any question at all?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I really loved your acronym. How creative. I'm sure everyone will agree with me that I really never thought about an acronym in that way. And now it's going to be a very memorable way for me to understand that chapter. So thank you for sharing that with us. Does anybody have any questions? The universal form is very inconceivable, but I'm sure Sam will be able to answer anything to the best of his ability. Nabinandan, do you have any questions or comments?
Comments, I loved it. Thank you very, very much. You're going to have to give more classes, eh?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Excellent. You've done good work as well. It showed as well. And just remind me again, what does the Rupa stand for?
The R is request. Arjuna is requesting from Krishna to see exactly what his universal form is like. And then the U is the
universal form.
The universal form itself. The P is prayers of Arjuna. He's praying to Krishna after seeing the universal form of the Lord. He began to pray with folded hands. And then the A is the armed form of the Lord, which showed this gigantic teeth, which everyone, a lot of people are crashing their head into and all that. That is the armed form of the Lord.
Yeah, very good. Excellent, excellent. And this universal form, to understand it, it's not the personal form of the Lord, right?
No, it's not the personal form of the Lord. That's why when he got to a point, Arjuna was so overwhelmed and he wanted to see the personal form of the Lord. He wanted to see the form that he's used to. So he asked Krishna, would you show me your other form, your 400 form, which he obliged, showed him the 400 Vishnu form. And then he said to Arjuna, okay, now I've shown you all my bewildering form, my Vishnu form, and now I'm back to the normal form. And Arjuna was content after seeing the normal form. So he showed all the forms that people knows the Supreme Personality can be. So, I mean, there's no question who Krishna is, actually.
In terms of, because initially, Krishna said, yes, you can, I will show you the form, but you will need divine eyes.
Absolutely.
So does that mean that the universal form is more divine than his personal form?
Not really. I mean, like it's got all the potencies actually infused into it. However, he don't need to advertise his universal form because Krishna really doesn't want to display his opulence. Otherwise, no one can even get closer to Krishna. But Krishna is so kind to us. He wants us to relate to him as an ordinary person. I mean, the effulgence alone of Krishna is hard to behold. You know, I mean, you cannot, without divine eyes, and if you are not into a certain level of devotional person, there's no way that you'll be able to withstand Krishna's effulgence. But he's so kind to us. He's come in the ordinary, as an ordinary person, so that it will be easier for us to relate to him. So there's no need for him to really show us the opulence. That's why he has to give a special divine eyes to Arjun in order for him to see the universal form, which no one has ever seen before, as he said. But because you've requested, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, I'm showing it to you today when he requested for it. But there's no need for him to really be showing his opulences and this gigantic, fearful universal form.
That's a good answer. The Acharyas also say that Krishna's form actually needs even more divine eyes to be able to behold the two-handed form. Because once he was present in the two-handed form, others saw him, like Duryodhana and his brothers and Sakuni, but they didn't recognize Krishna because they didn't have the divine eyes that actually Arjuna had and the Pandavas had to recognize that two-handed form as the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they say basically, yes, the universal form needed divine eyes, but actually the form of Krishna needs even more focused divine eyes. So
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. And then if you look at the end of the chapter, Krishna is saying that it's not because of your pious activities or the charities that you've done or all these penances that you've done that will enable you to see this kind of my opulences. It's not that. It's your devotional attitude that will enable you to see exactly who am I. So all these mystic people with all this powerful mysticism, you can't see Krishna with all that power. You won't be able to. But if you're a humble devotee, you'll be able to get a darshan of Krishna very, very easily with your devotional service.
Perfectly answered. Thank you very much, Sam.
Hare Krishna. Haribo.
Hare Krishna. A quick point. Thank you, Prabhuji. That was brilliant. I love that Rupa. That was fantastic. I'm putting that in my notes. You know, one thing about the opulence of the Absolute and also this chapter is that a Vaishnav can never be fanatic. And the reason I'm saying that is because if somebody's worshipping the moon or somebody's worshipping the star, a Vaishnav will also always see that, oh, he's actually indirectly worshipping Krishna. So if a Vaishnav went to the Amazon jungle and he saw the Amazon people half naked doing whatever worship they do, or if he went to Africa, or if he went to the Aborigines or the Red Indians, he'd be able to mingle amongst them so easily and even preach Krishna consciousness, because the way he's seeing it is from such a higher angle, not like a fanatic who will go to these places and say, look, you are bad people because you are behaving like this and you are worshipping the stars or the plants or the animals and you should be punished or you become in our religion, you know. And this is why one of the things that attracts me about Vaishnavism, about the Hare Krishna and Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada, is that everything gets encompassed in it, everything automatically, simultaneously. And why? Because opulence of the Absolute, who even we as living entities are part of. Hare Krishna.
Absolutely. Hare Krishna. And then Krishna says that the humble sage sees with equal vision a dog eater, an elephant, a tree, you know. So basically, as long as you are a living entity, you have soul within yourself. And it's the soul that really matters. It's not the outward look, basically. So you are right, Prabhu. Yep, indeed, you are right.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. That's beautiful, you know, about the seer, the Vaishnav, you know, he sees, you know, even the star, the moon, everything, you know, Krishna's behind it. It's just absolutely beautiful. So then how can we forget Krishna? You know, so we shouldn't be forgetting Krishna. This is the big thing we shouldn't really be forgetting.
And he represents everyone, the past, the present, and the future of everyone. So we are all within Krishna. We all creators, a creation of Krishna.
Yeah, Jai Shri Radha Krishna.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Hare Krishna. really lovely conversation that we're also lucky to hear, for glorifying Krishna as well. So thank you for sharing that, both Sam and Pigamba. Thanks so much. Everyone set such a high bar, so that's so good to hear. I will be doing the final chapter, so I'll just quickly share my screen. I'm doing chapter 12, which is a really beautiful chapter. It's probably my favorite chapter, I would say. So I'm very excited to be presenting it to all of you today. Let me just put my slideshow on.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hey Krishna, how are you? You doing good? Okay. Right, so I've done a few summaries before, so I kind of made this one a little bit more, my key takeaways from every part of the Bhagavad Gita and how that sort of have applied to my life. So it's a very practical chapter as well, so that's quite helpful. So chapter 12 is about devotional service. How can we engage in devotional service? What it is and what qualities are good qualities that can be attributed to the devotee and what qualities we should be cultivating within ourselves. So this is a very useful chapter, a very sweet chapter, and definitely very grounding after the majesty of chapters 10 and 11 as well, I find. Let me just move my video, trying the way. So I just thought I'd start with an overview about what exactly happens in chapter 12. It's a very short chapter as well. So just after seeing the universal form, Arjuna just clarifies for us, should we be worshipping his personal form or his universal form, his impersonal form? And Krishna quite firmly answers that it's much easier to worship his personal form, to form that relationship, one of the rasas with him, and specifically that those who do so very dear to him, because they're not overwhelmed in such awe, they just have conversations with him, they have a solid relationship with him, and just like was mentioned by Sam, that's exactly what he's looking for. What makes him feel very happy as well, makes us feel very happy, because he will reciprocate those emotions. Krishna does say that he can be attained through these other routes, but it's just really, really difficult for us in the embodied, with the embodied soul, and particularly in Kali Yuga, where there's so many distractions, to focus on something impersonal when there seems to be so much going on. It's very easy for us to become distracted from our path. Then Krishna goes on to outline the different points at which we can begin and progress in our devotional service, which we will look at in a little bit more detail. And he outlines the qualities that are very dear to him that we should be cultivating. So from this overview, just a little key takeaway of this sort of things that this chapter wants to show us is that God can be understood on a more personal level. He is very majestic, he's so opulent and so great, and at the same time, he's so personal and so loving and so kind. And wants to have a relationship with each and every one of us. He wants to spend quality time with each and every one of us. So that's a very nice thing to take away from this chapter. And that relationships are active rather than when they are passive. So I'm thinking about this in our current relationships. If you're in a marriage, it's better to have conversations rather than to just assume that everything's going to get sorted out. Similar in friendships. You've got to be doing things for each other. You've got to be doing things together. And this is why worshipping the impersonal form is so difficult for us, really, because relationships are active, and that's why the best relationship and the strongest relationship and connection that we have is when we have a personal devotional relationship with Krishna. So that's a very important takeaway for us to think when we're partaking in our devotional service and trying to cultivate that connection again through our yoga. Okay. So Krishna, for me, one of the things that was so striking about this chapter is how approachable Krishna is. Again, sort of on a personal level, I'm very new to this philosophy compared to many people who've presented today, many people who are on the call, and yet I found it very easy to sort of acclimatize and get involved in it because of how approachable it is. And this is particularly outlined in the chapter 12, so that's why I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So just as Krishna encourages a personal relationship between us and him, he makes himself very approachable so that we can do just that, so that it's open to anybody in the world who comes to this philosophy. And this is why he provides a progressional ladder And I also thought, using a real world example, you know, you don't just become someone's best friend or partner in one day. First you meet them, then you learn a little bit more about them, then you realize, oh, I really like this person, we like the same sort of things, and then you start talking about those things, and then, you know, you realize that you trust each other, and you have the, you know, you can provide for each other as well, and then the relationship is very strong and hard to break, and you become friends for life or partners for life. So it's similar with, you know, Krishna. He doesn't, it's very rare for someone to sort of completely surrender straight away, and he doesn't expect us necessarily to be at that stage. So he gives us a very clear process. How can we get to know him? How can we form trust? How can we banish our doubts with this knowledge that we learn and the practices that we do? So first he says, okay, if you want to start, if you want to come to me, you want a starting point, get some knowledge about me, you know, study the Bhagavad Gita, associate with devotees and talk about me, learn about me, begin some regulated spiritual devotional service. And once you've done this for a while as well, even better than this is a meditation and renunciation, renouncing the fruits of your work as much as you can and offering that up to Krishna. And once you've got even better at this, you can start thinking, okay, well, this is a lifestyle that's working for me. I want to try working for Krishna now, forming that relationship even more, showing that I have more to offer as well as a servant of Krishna. Then you think, okay, I've been working for Krishna for a while. This has been working quite well for me. Why not be following the rules and regulations which are helping me focus on him even more, have an even stronger relationship with him? And once you've done that, it becomes very easy to move into thinking solely of him all the time. And that's when the relationship has become unbreakable. So what's the key takeaway for me, and how has this helped me? Well, devotional service is inclusive and everybody is welcome to it. And the main thing is starting somewhere. If you're motivated to improve and you want to start and you want to have this connection, this is a great attitude to have, and it's definitely going to serve your devotional service well in the future. So finally, oh no, sorry, I don't know why this is bugging out like this. So finally, like I said, it's a very short chapter, but we have this really, really sweet section, which is the qualities of the devotee. And why is this helpful to us? Well, going back to this sense that we have to develop a relationship, and when we develop a relationship, we like to know what the other person likes. This is why this information is so helpful to us, because the more we become like this, the more Krishna will reciprocate to us, and then we will find ourselves closer to him, and we will be more motivated to do our devotional service and more unwavering in our devotional service as well, which can only be helpful for us. And if you look at many of these qualities as well, why are they so sweet and so divine? Is that they also will just make us likable in our material relationships as well. So if we think back to chapter 2, it's important for us to be doing both of our duties side by side. If we're sweet in our material duties and we're sweet in our spiritual duties, we'll be attracting more people to us as well, and therefore to Krishna through our association. So that's also very nice to have. So what are some of these qualities? Well, to be unenvious of anyone, you know, everybody's been given their opulences, their qualities by Krishna. So why should we be envious of them? They've been given them because they are the best qualities for that person to serve Krishna and to do the best that he can. Should be a kind friend. This is always very valuable. And, you know, what have we got to lose from kindness? No false ego, and we learn a little bit more about this in chapters 13 to 18, the practicalities of this, that we are not the doers, we just the desirers. Everything that needs to be done is sorted by many other things, but we just desire. That's our only role in things, in actions. To be equipoised in happiness and distress, honor and dishonor, towards friends and enemies, fame and infamy, heat and cold. In summary, anything that's really good or auspicious for you, or anything that doesn't go well for you, you should see them as equal, because they're just part of the dualities of material life. You know, things are always going to go well, and then the next day they'll go badly. Things will always turn and change. We should learn to tolerate these things and realize that they're just a part of life. And as a result, we'll find ourselves much more happier as well, and it will be much easier to focus on our actual devotional service and purpose. We should be fixed in knowledge, and that means fixed in Krishna consciousness and concentrating on building that relationship that we discussed. In good association, because this can help us cultivate these qualities. People who have these qualities already will set a right example for us, and we can learn from that. Engaged in devotional service, and also being silent and self-satisfied. And I just put in brackets there, silent in the material sense. You know, right now we're all talking, but we're talking about Krishna, which is a valuable thing. We should be more, as we progress and become more silent and less attached to the material aspects would be our goal. So that's what it means by silence here. So what are the key takeaways for us in terms of our personal lives? Well, material life is tumultuous. We know this. I mean, who could have predicted when we were celebrating New Year's that we were going to enter a year where there was a global pandemic? I mean, who could have predicted that there would have been a global pandemic in our lifetime? I mean, that's the biggest example for me of how material world can be so unpredictable. We can't control that. You know, we can't control whether there's going to be a second wave, whether there's going to be a recession, or whether we're going to recover. What we can control is how we handle this change. So, you know, one day might be really great, another day might be awful. One day we might be in lockdown, the next day things might have released. But what we should understand is this is the way of life. Life is changing, and we'll be so much more at peace if we see feelings as transient and neither overly celebrate something that's really great, nor get overly depressed about something that's awful. So these are some really valuable lessons I really enjoyed when I was reading chapter 12, and I hope that these have been useful to you as well. And now I'd just like to open the floor to any questions or comments or thoughts that anyone might have. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Very well summarized, and you made a lot of subsidiary points, which are actually fundamental points as well. So that was really, really well done, Sanjana.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Anybody like to ask any questions to Sanjana? And I like the way you turned it around as well. From what Krishna was saying, you turned it the other way around. You know, you do this and you can go higher stage, and then you can go higher stage, and then higher stage. That was good. That was really good. So that shows, you know, that when you read, we're not just reading, but we want to actually study and absorb. And one way to do that is by reading, analyzing, and as you did, you know, you turned it around. So that was very, very intelligent. So if you're able to share a PDF of that onto the group, onto the youth group, that'd be good.
Sure, yeah, I will do.
I think that would definitely help a lot of people understand chapter 12.
Prabhuji,
Yes, yeah.
I want to tell 12 chapter shlokas 1 to 10.
Yeah, in a minute, okay? You can definitely do that. Very good boy. Rianch is very intelligent. He's only 7, I think.
Yeah, he knows a lot. It's very impressive, actually.
He knows those 4 Chatuslok. Govind Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Any questions for Sanjana? Because this is, we also like to ask questions because that shows, then the answer will show how one should reply, and we can also give feedback, you know, because it's all about training now. We're training our youngsters. So even if there's a question that you, of course, will know the answer, but just to train, I suppose, train Sanjana. Is there a question you'd like to ask?
Not really, Prabhuji. The comments I would like to make, Mataji said as well, I think chapter 12, devotional service, that is one of those, and as I said initially as well, this is right in the middle, the devotional service, the 6th, and then chapter 12 is the main chapter itself to understand it, and the way you present it I think that was very, very nice. Very well structured as well. And you mentioned initially that's what you're going to do. And that's what usually we do in the presentations, that we usually say this is what we will do. Then we do it. Then right at the end, we summarize everything. Then that's what I have told you. So in that sense, I really liked the way you put that together. So
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
on there are many questions, to be honest, in Bhagavad Gita which we could ask, and I do ask a lot of questions, but this might not be the good time to ask. I would say this is the very first time I don't want to puzzle you, but
Go for it. Ask one question.
right, okay. So I will ask this question, which is which was asked at Manor from Ataranga Prabhuji, who was Adam, and he recently got initiated. And so the question was, it's on, when we say devotional service, then we always think about the demigods, and the question was asked before as well on the similar lines, that we consider a lot of time, not always, but a lot of time we consider demigods as pure devotees. Not all the time, but for example, let's say Lord Shiva, for example, right? So we were Vaishnava now, Yatha Shambhu. Then how a pure devotees could fall under material mode of nature? If that's the question I'll pose through. I do have some sort of answer for that as well. So that's why I say I don't want to puzzle you, but
No, it's good to test. It's good to test because she's been asked challenging questions before, and her responses have been, well measured. And it's always a good sign that somebody's understanding an overall picture as well as the detail.
Certainly, and a new perspective as well. So yes, over to
you. Yeah, I hope that this is right. My understanding with also pure devotees is that they can sort of, through their devotion, they kind of transcended the modes of material nature while being under it, and then also that they can be within the spiritual world while being wherever that they are, and that in a sense, a pure devotee would say, well, Krishna, put me anywhere, and I'll do anything for you, put me in the hellish planets, put me here, put me there. I will always be with you, and I'll always be conducting your service, and as part of that relationship as well.
Actually, that's a superb answer, because a pure devotee can never fall down, right? That just cannot happen. If you're pure, you ain't going to fall down. Of course, the
Hare
Lord...
Krishna, I've got one question, if you don't mind.
Yes, go for it.
Okay, they said devotional service is said to be very simple, but not easy. Why do you think that is the case?
Yeah, I think that's very true in a way, because at the end of the day, Krishna saying to us, if you do devotional service, I will reciprocate, and it's very simple in terms of just offer everything up and the happiness that you gain. But at the same time, I think because of these powerful modes, and this forgetfulness and this cloud, especially false ego, that's the real roadblock in terms of understanding and reading about devotional service, and then trying to do it, and false ego coming in and saying, oh, but what if I wanted to control material nature? Technically I could do that, because we have false beliefs, and that's where it becomes so much harder. And I think also as well, my understanding is that sometimes Maya can strengthen her potency when people try and undertake it just as sort of a test as well. You find yourself becoming a little bit more tested the more you do, just to see how strong your determination is as well. Is that correct, Prabhu?
Indeed, yeah, absolutely, you're right.
Very
Thank
good.
you for your answer as well. Thank you so much.
Good understanding.
Everyone.
Just back onto that point about the pure devotee can never fall down. The Lord may make arrangements in order to test, not test necessarily, but to actually give lessons to us. So Arjun, pure devotee, can never actually fall, but the Lord gave him, covered his intelligence so that the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. Similarly, Prabhuji just, I was reading about one of the acharyas, I think it was Jiva Goswami, he was asked a question, or he addressed a question about Lord Brahma. How can Lord Brahma fall? He's a pure devotee. How can he, do those things which he did? He stole the cowherd boys and the calves, and then he did something else as well. So Jiva Goswami explaining that this Brahma, that is who is the head of our sampradaya, can never do any wrong. But there are other Brahmas who can, because they're not necessarily pure devotees. So Jiva Goswami explained that the Brahma in concerned is a Brahma from a different universe. So that's very interesting. The pure devotee can never fall, right? That's his he's achieved his Sanatana Dharma. Govind,
Prabhuji, can I tell?
sorry, Rianch?
Prabhuji, can I tell the shlokas?
Just 1 minute. You have to be very patient, okay? Govind Prabhu, did you want to add to that?
Very well, Prabhuji. Yes, very well posed, and we added many good points to that. There's one particular one where it says, I think it says the nectar of instruction, verse 3, and it says the way Srila Prabhupada added in the purport that the pure devotees could get the good qualities of demigods through devotional service, or in fact not just for pure devotees, but the devotees, they could get the good qualities of demigods through devotional service. And yes, Prabhuji, I've heard and read this as well about the Brahma we have in our universe. That's our Brahma wouldn't do that, but because Brahma is a placeholder, so in that respect, then yes, the very first jiva. But of course, and a lot of times when if there is no proper candidate available, then Krishna himself could take the role of Brahma as well for a while until the suitable candidate will get available. So yes, yeah, and a lot of time, like His Holiness Jayapataka Swamiji Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, if his health is not going well, and a lot of disciples sometimes they ask the question that how come a pure devotee is suffering? Like this morning I was listening the lecture and somebody said, well, pure devotee, how could this accident could happen to the pure devotee? And I think Jayadvait Maharaj Ji had answered this before to Tamal Maharaj Ji, saying that no accident could happen to devotee. It's always Krishna's plan. So in that respect, if you think about it, then yes, it's all the pastime Krishna has put together for maybe the neophyte devotees like ourselves, myself, that we could learn from those rather than so. Another, I'm not sure where I have read that, but whether Srila Prabhupada ji, I think Srila Prabhupada ji has given this because his commentary is brilliant, needless to say. And one of the example he has given where he said that, like the mother, if the mother needs to teach a lesson to daughter-in-law, then rather than getting harsh on daughter-in-law, she will say those things to her daughter. And maybe it's not daughter's fault. If the daughter is not doing something, she will say, oh, don't you know how to do that? Let me teach you. And even if the daughter knows, because mother has taught her a number of times, but because daughter-in-law is new, so it might be a bit rude on daughter-in-law, then the mother will teach it anything, like the way how do we do the deity worship or anything, maybe in materially how to cook the chapati or anything, then to daughter-in-law, to daughter, and the daughter-in-law will see that as an example and learn it. Same thing Krishna will make it through pure devotees, because they are the ones who could take it through, because we won't able to, we might able even break through. But when we see these things on pure devotees, then we take lessons and then we learn a lot from it. So in that respect, yes, yeah, pure devotees, demigods, and where we are, it's a very significant difference and distinction which Srila Prabhupada has made in his purpose. So, Haribol, very, very nice. Very, very,
That was very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Anybody else? Sanjana, would you like to say anything?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you everyone for coming and for what a wonderfully interactive session. One of the most interactive sessions I think we've had actually.
Yes.
And that's just been so good. I've learned so much from everyone. And thanks to everyone for your challenging questions. Definitely about the pure devotee as well. The question about do they ever have misfortunes coming onto them? How could that be? How could such an accident happen? I think it's quite important to note. I think that a pure devotee would never see it as a misfortune, because anything that they happen to them, they would know that it was part of whatever they had to be receiving for Krishna's service as well. And also great to see so many kids. Thanks for sharing.
Yes, Riyansh will just, I think we'll finish with Riyansh, but I just wanted to check with the Karuna Bandar, Mataji. Anything you'd like to share or add?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to add something. My mother, when she took initiation, Guru Maharaj gave her the name Raj Vidya Devi Dasi, and he told her that even though she didn't even completed her primary schooling, and she said that she couldn't read English, she couldn't understand English, anything. The Guru Maharaj told her that she has got the best knowledge that one could get on this earth. That's why he named her Rajavidya, because she surrendered, she accepted devotional service, and she also initiated, etc. So that's it. The importance of really surrendering is given by her.
And you all joined because of her, right?
Oh, yeah.
Powerful soul. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to share, Mataji?
No.
Okay. Normally we finish with Nashinga prayers, but I think today let's give Riyansh a chance. He's enthusiastic. So let's hear the Chatuslok. So Riyansh?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Go for it. But remember, okay, not too loud. You should be a little bit away from the mic. Otherwise,
Okay,
it becomes too loud, yeah?
Okay, Prabhuji.
Still a little too close. So go a little bit further from the mic.
Prabhuji, now?
No, a little bit more.
Prabhuji?
Still too loud.
Prabhuji.
That's better. That's better, yeah. So always stay that far, okay? Otherwise, it's just too loud. So go for it.
Arjunavacha evam satata yuktaye bhaktvastam pariyupasate echakyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha Shri Bhagavan vacha maya vishamano yemam ichayukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetaha te me yukta tamamata etvaksharam anitesham avyaktam pariyupasate sarvatra gamachintyancha Uttastamashlandram Sanyameya Gramam Sarvatra Samabuddhaya Te Pragnuvanti Mameva Sarvabhuta Hiterata Kleshodikatarastesham Avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gati dukkam dehavati avapyate yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matpara ananyaynaiva yogena manjayanto upasate teshamaham samuddarta mrityu samsara sagara bhavamina chirarpata mayaveshita chetasam maye vamana aratsva mayi buddhin vishaya निवसिष्यसि मय्येव हतौ त्वं न संशया अरचित्तं समादातुं शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततो मामिच्छातुं धनुजय अभ्यासेऽप्य समर्थोऽसि मत्कर्मापनोद्भव अधर्मामपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिमवाप्स्यसि.
Very good. Fantastic, Riyansh. So you know 10 of them by heart already.
Yes, Prabhuji.
That is amazing. Very, very good boy. Amazing. Thank you very much. Is your mother there?
Prabhuji, she is in kitchen.
Okay, okay. Well done, Riyansh. And thank you.
Well done, Riyansh. You've done
Riyansh,
very well.
Riyansh is from Bharat. He's from Hyderabad.
Yes, he's really good boy. Very clever.
Yes, Manjali Maharaj. He's absolutely
Can we have a look at his face?
Yeah.
Riyansh?
So, Riyansh,
Can we have a look?
put your camera on, Riyansh.
Oh, beautiful, lovely. God bless you. God bless you. Oh,
There you go. Good boy.
lovely,
That was
lovely, very
excellent.
clever. Yeah. God bless you.
Well done.
Oh, well done. Yes, really well done. Yeah. Oh.
I'd like to thank everybody for really wonderful interactive session.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Riyansh. Thank you, Sanjana. It's really, really good. Shall we try to do this every other Sunday? Is that the idea?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're gonna keep it on Sunday, or we're gonna keep doing it on the
Ekadashi becomes a little difficult because it's weekdays now. And in the evening, we're going to have satsangs because of the Purushottam Mass. So shall we try to fix it Sunday? Is that suitable for you?
Yeah, we can probably try and fix it for that.
Okay. Okay. If we can't do every other Sunday, at least if we get a few in, that's fantastic. Is that okay with everybody? Sunday at about 1 o'clock?
Yes, Prabhu, that's okay.
Yes, Prabhuji, that's okay.
Hey, Satvika, so impressed with you. How old are you, Satvika?
I'm 11.
Really good. Did you find that helpful?
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So good. So good, Satvika. And Sam, do you think that's going to be okay for you? Because I'd love you to summarize more chapters.
Oh, that's inspiration to see these youth doing what they're doing. It's amazing.
I can join in my laptop.
Okay, but don't always interrupt, okay, young man?
Okay, Prabhuji.
He's got a lot of enthusiasm.
Which is good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, indeed.
But I tell you, learning those 10 words, he's done very, very well. That is.
Even I've struggled.
Yeah, even but I'm really impressed by that. Okay.
He reminds me when I was that age, Prabhu. I was a bit like that.
Right. Very good. Okay, so we'll Gita, is this all time okay for you?
Yes, Prabhu.
Is that this time okay for you for the youth?
Yes, yeah, 1 o'clock is absolutely fine.
And next time, I'd like you to summarize a chapter, a small chapter.
Okay, I'll try my best, Prabhu.
All right.
I think everybody's there, so I think if I was to summarize, I think I'd probably I would be as good as everybody else.
No. That's the idea of this forum is training. It's not question of good. It's a question of learning to basically preach and to explain about Krishna. And when we do that, we actually learn more ourselves than anybody else will learn. So like I'm doing these seminars with Jayanti, but actually I'm learning more than anybody else can possibly, because and you'll find the same. but maybe you're a little shy, but I just want to take you out of your comfort zone a little bit so that you will see what I'm saying.
Okay, Prabhu.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you, Govind Prabhu. Fantastic.
Hare Krishna.
Sam,
Haribo.
thank you. Karuna.
See you at 4 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it never stops.
It never stops.
You.
I wonder how you do it. Haribo.
Yeah. Thank you, Rianj. Thank you, Lokeshwar. Amazing, Lokeshwar. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mataji. Keep blessing us. Thank you, Satvika.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sanjana. Brilliant, Sanjana. That was really, really good.
Thank you. Yeah,
Amazing.
very good session.